Imagine a world where the birth of a daughter was seen as a curse, a burden so heavy that it led to the unthinkable, burying her alive. This was a grim reality in pre-Islamic Arabia, where women were treated as mere possessions, denied basic human rights, and subjected to lives of profound indignity. In a society dominated by patriarchy, the very concept of justice for women was non-existent, until a revolutionary message emerged, one that would change everything. In the early 7th century, Islam brought a transformative message of justice, dignity, and unprecedented rights for women. The Quran, believed by Muslims to be the literal word of God, introduced reforms that shattered the oppressive norms of the time. The Arabian Peninsula, once a place where women were marginalized, became the epicenter of a transformative shift in how women were perceived and treated. Central to Islam's teachings is the idea that men and women are spiritually equal, a concept radically different from the prevailing norms that viewed women as spiritually inferior. The Quran directly addresses this, asserting that both men and women have the same potential for spiritual success and accountability before God. Surah Al-Ahzab captures this. Indeed, the Muslim men and Muslim women, the believing men and believing women, for them Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. Quran 33:35. This verse places men and women on equal spiritual footing, breaking down centuries of entrenched gender bias. But Islam's impact on women's rights extended beyond spiritual equality. It ventured into legal rights, something unheard of in pre-Islamic Arabia. Women, who previously had no legal status, were granted the right to inheritance, ownership, and the ability to engage in business. The Quran declared, "For men is a share what the parents and close relatives leave, and for women is a share, an obligatory share." Quran 4:7. This was a groundbreaking development that recognized women as full members of society with their own rights and responsibilities. Marriage, too, underwent a radical transformation under Islam. Before Islam, women had little say in whom they married, often treated as part of a transaction between families. Islam redefined marriage as a contract between two consenting adults, where both parties had the right to accept or reject a proposal. The concept of mahr or dower was introduced as a gift from the husband to the wife, symbolizing her independence and dignity. This was not just a token gesture. It was a legally binding agreement that recognized the woman's rights within the marriage. In cases of divorce, Islam provided clear guidelines to protect both parties. While men have the right to initiate divorce through talaq, women can seek a separation through khula or through legal means if there are valid grounds, such as mistreatment or abandonment. This balanced approach was designed to ensure fairness and justice, protecting the dignity of both men and women. Education was another area where Islam brought significant change. The pursuit of knowledge is emphasized in Islam as a duty for every Muslim, regardless of gender. The Prophet Muhammad famously said, "Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim." Women, too, were encouraged to seek knowledge and education. Aisha, the Prophet's wife, is a prime example. She was a religious scholar who narrated over 2,000 hadiths and played a crucial role in the early Muslim community's political and social life. Aisha's contributions to Islamic scholarship are still studied and respected by scholars worldwide today. Despite the rights granted to women in Islam, a significant gap exists between these ideals and the reality faced by many Muslim women today. Cultural practices in some Muslim-majority societies have often overshadowed true Islamic teachings, leading to injustices wrongly associated with the religion. Practices such as forced marriages, honor killings, and female genital mutilation are cultural, not religious, yet continue to be wrongly linked to Islam. These practices starkly contrast the Quranic principles of justice, compassion, and respect for human dignity. Islamic scholars and activists have long worked to challenge these misconceptions by returning to the original teachings of the Quran and Hadith. They emphasize that Islam's approach to women's rights is grounded in justice and fairness, and that any practice violating these principles is contrary to Islamic teachings. The struggle to align cultural practices with Islamic teachings is ongoing, but progress is being made. In the modern era, Muslim women have been at the forefront of gender equality and social justice movements. These movements have sought to reinterpret Islamic texts in a way that aligns with contemporary human rights, while remaining faithful to Islam's core principles. Countries like Tunisia and Morocco have made significant legal reforms to improve women's rights, including changes in family law and efforts to increase female representation in political life. These efforts have sparked debates within the Muslim world about balancing tradition and modernity, and how best to realize the rights that Islam granted to women over 1,000 years ago. Islamic teachings, when understood in their proper context, offer a framework for gender equality that was revolutionary for its time and remains relevant today. However, the gap between Islam's ideals and the realities faced by many Muslim women highlights the need for continued efforts to address cultural practices that undermine these rights. Understanding Islam's approach to women's rights requires recognizing the religion's foundational principles of justice, compassion, and respect for human dignity. As Muslim societies continue to evolve, it is essential to return to these principles, ensuring that women can fully exercise their rights in every aspect of life. Islam's vision for women is one of dignity, equality, and justice, a vision that, if fully realized, can serve as a powerful force for good in the world today.